What if one of the most powerful growth tools for your business is something you know you should be doing, but it just feels too complicated to start? A lot of entrepreneurs know a podcast can build authority, create opportunities, and expand their reach. But once they start looking at the tech, the editing, the distribution, and the marketing, it quickly becomes overwhelming. So the question becomes, is there a better way to turn your ideas into influence without it taking over your schedule? Welcome back to another episode of the Vital Wealth Strategies podcast. I'm your host, Patrick Lonergan. And on this show, we explore the strategies that help entrepreneurs grow their businesses, protect their wealth, and build a life on their terms. Today, I'm joined by Nathan Gwilliam, a serial entrepreneur who has created and sold 3 digital ventures. His most recent exit was Adoption.com, which became the most visited adoption website in the world. After that exit, Nathan launched a podcast focused on digital monetization and published more than 350 episodes. But along the way, he realized something. Producing a podcast the traditional way required more than 30 different tools, nearly $2,000 per month in software, and hours every day just to distribute the content. So he decided to solve the problem. Nathan built PodUp, an all-in-one podcasting platform powered by AI with more than 50 tools designed to help entrepreneurs create, grow, and monetize a podcast without all the complexity. And through his agency, Pod Allies, his team can even handle the production and marketing so businesses can focus on sharing their ideas. In this episode, we talk about how entrepreneurs can leverage podcasting to build authority, why most people make it far more complicated than it needs to be, and how the right systems can turn your content into a powerful growth engine for your business. And before we jump in, if you're looking for more strategies to help you grow your business and build long-term wealth, head over to vitalwealth.com/resources. We've built a vault of tools, strategies, and guides specifically for entrepreneurs who want to operate smarter and build real wealth. And if you enjoy these episodes, leave a quick review. Help us reach more entrepreneurs who are looking for better strategies. All right, let's dive into the conversation with Nathan Gwilliam. I'm excited about our conversation today. We've got Nathan Gwilliam on the show, and Nathan has done a number of things. He's been a successful entrepreneur and also is the founder of PodUp. He has some amazing tools that help entrepreneurs launch and edit and make a podcast really easy. And I do this podcast because I think it matters getting our content out there in the world. I think almost all entrepreneurs should do the same. So Nathan, thank you so much for joining us here today.
Yeah, thanks for having me on today, Patrick.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this and it's interesting just thinking about the challenges that entrepreneurs face when they start doing a podcast. And I'm thinking back to when I started, and between the idea of having a podcast and when my first episode got out into the world, I think it was well over 12 months, and there was lots of inertia in the way for me. A body at rest stays in rest. It's a physics concept, or a body in motion stays in motion, and I was at rest, and it was hard getting things going. But I think about the recording, editing, publishing, the video clips, the blog posts, the social media distribution, emails, web hosting, like all of that just sounds overwhelming to me. And I think it does to most listeners. And then generally just feeling frustrated because I know a podcast can be a powerful tool for my business, but I don't have the time to become a media company, right? And then philosophically, entrepreneurs shouldn't be held back from sharing their insights and their valuable ideas simply because the technology is fragmented and inefficient. So I'm looking forward to getting into our discussion today to solve some of those problems. But before we do, can we get a little bit of your background? I'd like to hear just about your entrepreneurial journey.
Sure. I am an incurable creator. And when I went to college, I studied entrepreneurship. And after my first year in college, I decided I wanted to be a missionary for a couple of years. I wanted to leave and go do some volunteer service work. And so I went to Brazil for 2 years. And before my mission, I never had heard of the internet one time. And while I was there in Brazil from 1993 to 1995, the internet exploded. And when I came back, it felt like the gold rush, right? And so as an entrepreneurial student, I had to do a thesis as part of one of the programs I was in, this honors program I was doing. And so for my thesis, I wrote a business plan on how to help children find loving permanent homes through adoption. When I was in Brazil, I had fallen in love with all these street kids that would
Hmm.
constantly come ask me for money, and the change in my pockets quickly ran out as a volunteer missionary, and
Hmm.
I vowed when I got back to do something to make a meaningful difference in their lives. So I saw the internet as my opportunity to do that, and I wrote a business plan, and it won a couple of business plan competitions, and I started Adoption.com, and I had
Hmm.
the immense privilege of working with adoption for decades, and kind of felt like living in a Hallmark movie. I just
Yeah.
I loved being able to help create families and help children find homes, and um,
Hmm.
help make a social impact, and also make a profit and provide for my family. So that was my
Yeah.
first venture. Um, I've done a variety of other ventures. I've built and sold three. And I've
Hmm.
helped other people. I've done a lot of consulting work where I've helped other people build ventures too. Um, One venture that I did, I helped Paul Allen. So not the Microsoft
Hmm.
Paul Allen, but the Paul Allen that did Ancestry.com. So I
Hmm.
helped him do a venture called Family Link. And together with a very talented development team, they built an app that reached 90 million app installs. And I was in charge of monetization, and I added $5 million of revenue
Nice.
in the first 12 months on that app. So that's an example. Another
Hmm.
example of consulting is with Deseret Digital Media. They bought one of my companies, and I went to work for them, and I built together with an incredibly talented team. Um, my team and I built a network of family related websites in different languages and countries, and those reached 280 million monthly uniques, with 40 million monthly comments, likes, and shares, with 130 million social follows. So this is what I do. All of my different ventures have been around building these digital platforms, and that's kind of my
Hmm.
expertise. So when I was selling my last venture um, back in 2019, I was doing a coaching program with Russell Brunson,
Hmm.
and he made
Hmm.
me a promise. He said that if I would publish every day for a year, I would be financially free. And so
Yeah.
I took him at his word, and I started a show, and I did
Yeah.
audio and video and social, and all of those different pieces, and newsletters and blogs, and uh and I published every day for a year, but oh my goodness, it kicked my butt. It was so
Yeah.
hard. After about 3 months, I realized that I needed more than 30 different technologies, because I wasn't just building a simple podcast. I was trying to build a
Hmm.
venture around a podcast.
Yep.
And those technologies cost almost $2,000 a month. And they
Hmm.
didn't integrate hardly at all together. I felt like I was duct taping them.
Yep.
And one day in frustration, I had seen what Shopify had done, where they brought together 100 different technologies and made it possible so that an entrepreneur could create a venture around e-commerce. And I could just see that someone needed to do that same thing around podcasting and bring all these technologies
Hmm.
together. And I knew someone was going to make $1 billion doing that. And that was my aha
Yeah.
moment. So I went and hired a bunch of talented developers about 6 years ago, and we started building this. We've put about $6 million into PodUp, and it now has
Hmm.
74 tools that are integrated. There's 18 AI tools, there's 10 monetization tools, all these different tools that help you record and edit and repurpose and publish and syndicate and market and monetize your podcast and turn it into a venture. And
Yeah.
then we started having customers, businesses that came to us and said, "Okay, love your tool, and I know I need a podcast, but I just don't have time. Can I just
Hmm.
pay you to do it for me?"
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
we open an office in India. We have
Hmm.
we have about 40 team members there, and we have a business called Pod Allies, and it's an
Yeah.
agency where businesses come to us, and the businesses record the episodes, but we do about 40 different things for them. We book their guests and edit their videos and write their blog posts, publish and syndicate and run their ads and book them on other shows and help them develop their monetization streams, and help businesses to be successful in their
Hmm.
podcasting journeys.
Wow, this is incredible, and I'm frustrated. Going back to one of my initial comments was, the inertia, the getting started. I remember when I first just trying to make, the recording software and my microphone and all of these things like work together. I think it took me an hour to like get it all plugged in and like I could hear myself through my headphones and it was all working correctly. And so the fact that you've brought all these tools and that's just one sort of set of that. You start adding in, editing softwares and all these other things. It can be really overwhelming. So the fact that you've done this and brought it all together is really incredible.
And so to
Yeah.
illustrate what we do related to that specific example, where people normally have to go find all the equipment and research it and pick what's best and then order it and try to figure it out and set it up. Instead, with us, we send you our favorite equipment that we've already tested, we've already vetted. Once you get it, we help you set it up and we help you test it and do a test recording. I mean, we try to make it take as little time as possible for you.
Nathan, I'm kind of mad that I didn't meet you about 4 or 5 years ago because I think when the podcast became an idea, and then it took me a couple of years of thinking about it, going, yeah, that'd be fun to do. I don't have time for that. To the thing that sort of kicked it all off was like I hired an executive assistant, and I'm like, all right, here's your job. Get this podcast off the ground. We're just going to get it going. Once I invested some dollars, it helped me move, but it was a very expensive way to go because I was also hired a podcast consultant, and it was like, geez, I'm sure 1 month of that podcast retainer would have paid for, all of my pod up startup cost, and got me rolling. So, but I think the moral of the story is, people that are listening to this, like, it's not as hard as it used to be to
That's right.
get started with podcasts. So,
yeah,
this is incredible. Go ahead.
Yeah, with our 70 plus tools that are integrated together, and with our team in India that's incredibly talented, I think what we can do for podcasters, I don't think they could do for minimum wage what we can do for them. I'm not aware of anyone else that can do what we can do for the quality, the scope, the depth of what we can offer.
Yeah. And I'm really interested in Pod Allies and what you have going on there with the team in India. So can you dig into that a little bit more? Maybe give us a little bit of a case study, like where somebody's coming to you and they've got this certain situation and they're like, I'm excited about a podcast, but I don't know how to, fit it into my life with everything else I've got going on.
Yeah. We hear that all the time from CEOs. In fact, we have more clients. We would generate far more revenue from CEOs that need help than we do from, just everyday people licensing the software. It's incredibly common. Most CEOs feel that way. They know they need a podcast. And they usually tell us that. I know I need a podcast. I just don't have time. And so we've tried to kind of be this end-to-end solution for them. Obviously, there's a few things they have to do, right? We'll book their guests for them, book the guests they want and schedule it. And we'll write the show notes and give them the bio and the headshot and the questions to ask, a list of questions, but they still have to show up and have the conversation. And then we'll go book them on other shows, to help promote their show. And they've got to show up and have those conversations, but, and they've got to maybe show up at meetings and answer some questions and make some decisions and share their subject matter expertise. But other than that, we do almost everything for them. And it's like, there's this gap. Most podcasts pod fade, most CEOs pod fade. And what happens is it ends up costing a lot of money and taking a lot of time and consuming a lot of resources. That's this line. And then for that first year or two, they're not getting a lot of benefit. And so this gap between the benefit and the resources that it's taking is what causes pod fade, right? And so what we've tried to do is get rid of that pod fade. We've tried to reduce the time that it takes. You minimize that time and minimize that cost. And then we have 10 different monetization tools built into PodUp, and we can help CEOs launch over 20 different monetization strategies. And so that helps them make money a lot faster. And we do a lot of marketing for them and help them grow a lot faster. We've gotten so good at this that we'll even guarantee how much traffic we're going to give them. Well, our packages generally range from between 5,000 and 50,000 guaranteed views per month. So we don't just do advertising, we guarantee the results. So with that increased traffic, with that guaranteed traffic, with helping them roll out monetization streams, it becomes worth it, right? And you get rid of that pod fade gap a lot faster.
Yeah, yeah. This is fascinating because one of the things you talk about is getting a year or two in and not seeing the fruit of all the labor that comes out. But I think when you start looking at podcast data, the number of podcasts and the number of episodes, like people get started and they don't make it a year or two. They make it
8
4 or
episodes.
5,
Yeah.
10 episodes, right?
Yep.
Yeah, it's a pretty low number. And I think one thing that as somebody that now has built some systems and processes, I'm not a Pod Up, subscriber yet, or Pod Allies subscriber yet, but you've really got my attention here. One of the things that I think about now that makes the podcast so easy is we've got the systems and processes in place where all I have to do is show up and do the interview and do a little bit of the prep to make sure that, I know who my guest is, or I know, the podcast that I'm going on, what direction they're going to like the conversation to go. But that's the easy part for me, then I'm done and I'm done. Right. And magically, and I'm not even sure how it all happens, but it then goes out every single week with all the show notes and all the stuff that is put together. And I think that once you get into that rhythm,
Yeah.
it's really nice, but it doesn't just happen overnight unless you're utilizing some of the tools that you're talking about here. So
Yeah, I remember the first show that I did. Every episode had 22 different steps, right? And from scheduling the guest to recording the guest to editing the video, right? And it's so easy to just miss one step, and you miss one step and you miss the whole episode. You lose, it slips through the cracks. So what you're saying is right. You got to have that system and that process and get it worked out.
Yeah. And podcasting is awfully, when I first started listening to podcasts, it was on the podcast app. Actually, it was through iTunes, and on my iPod, it wasn't even on my phone. I've been a long time audio book and podcast junkie, but now the formats are changing, right? YouTube is a very, very popular podcast platform. And I see how podcasts are being sliced and diced into social media. And all of that sounds overwhelming to me. Can you talk about the different platforms and how podcasts are expanding beyond just something people listen to?
Yeah.
I think Joe Rogan just kind of blown that up with his video podcast. But yeah, I'm curious your perspective on that.
Yeah, that is a great point, because a lot of people, when they hear the term podcast, they still think audio, right? And podcasts today, at least when they're done right, and someone's trying to turn them into a venture, they're a lot more than just audio. Great podcasts today usually are audio. They usually start with a video recording and then they get repurposed. That's the term. And people usually turn them into 8 or 12 or more pieces of content, right? So you usually have audio, you usually have long form video, maybe a 30-minute interview or 45-minute interview or something. You then have maybe several short form video forms, several 60 to 90-second video clips you can put out on social media, and the short form formats. It often becomes a blog. It often becomes show notes that get put out there with a transcript. It often becomes a newsletter. It often becomes several forms of social content that goes out there. And then once you've repurposed it, you then syndicate it. So the top podcasters usually have their own website. So you got to own your own platform. Don't just be relying upon other people's platforms and their algorithm to surface you, right? You got to have your own website. And so then you publish everything originally to your website, the video and the audio and the blog and the social and, all that. And then you syndicate it out. And syndicating, you can go out to audio platforms. I think we go out to 13 or 14 audio platforms right now. You can go out to blog platforms. You can go out to social platforms. You can go out to video platforms, and there's different kinds of video platforms. There's the long form and the short form video platforms. And then you can go out to live stream platforms if you do live streaming. We have a cool feature in PodUp. When you record, you can choose to live stream, and that's not abnormal. But when most podcasters go live, they go live on one channel. They'll go live on Instagram, or they'll go live on YouTube or something. So we allow you can go live on, you can go live on your channel, but you can go live on all of your top channels simultaneously. And we call that multi-streaming. And then you can invite your guest. And if your guest gives you permission, you can also go live simultaneously on all of their top social channels as well. So it's a great way to suck traffic in from the audiences of your guests.
Yeah, this is fantastic, and I think one of the things that we're talking about here is building an audience, right? And the more connected I can be to people that are trying to find my message, right? That are interested in my topic, the better. And I think all the things you just highlighted were fantastic ways to do that. And I think about podcasting, and I think it's good to let's step up a level for a second and just talk about why different businesses would have a podcast. And I'm going to go through some of the reasons that I've interacted with a podcast and then become a client of that. And I think of it in a few different avenues. You mentioned Russell Brunson.
Yes.
I love Russell's
me too.
content. I see some, your podcasting secrets podcast is been great resource. I mentioned before we started recording, just thank you for putting that information out there. I think it's great.
That's very kind of you. Thank you.
Yeah. I've also thought about some marketing people that I've engaged with, and it's so interesting. After I listen to their podcast, I'll go back and binge like all the episodes, and there's just so much value that I take away. And I'm like, okay. And this is maybe a Russell Brunson concept that, okay, he's given me the framework, but now I need somebody to walk alongside me or execute for me. And so now I'm going to call and engage. But it's just a great way to get people the content they need. And then I feel like I know the person, I know what they think about. I know what they believe. I like the way they approach the world and pursue, the opportunity that's in front of them. And so, yeah, I'm curious where you're seeing opportunities for the entrepreneur or the CEO to start publishing podcast and how it can expand their business. Because that's, in general, most people are doing it for to expand their opportunities, not just put some cool content out in the world.
That's right. It's that gap, right? If we put a lot of effort in and we don't get enough benefit, we end up pod fading. So we've got to reduce the effort and we've got to increase the benefit. Okay, so you talked about a great benefit, the value that we can give to our audience before they ever have to buy something, right? They can get to know us and like us and trust us first. That's a great strategy, right? Similar to like when you were dating and let's say you went to an event and you saw a really pretty girl and you just walked up to her and you asked her to marry you, right? You have zero chance of being successful in that. But so many businesses, they get a lead and they immediately go for a sale, right? And they wonder why they have a 0.03%, open rate on their emails. And so when we flip the script and we try to give them value first, so they can know us, like us, and trust us before they have to make a sale, that's enormously valuable. So that's number one. Another really important strategy is, or value benefit comes from the guests. So just before this interview, I was talking to someone who runs a business, a CEO, who is wanting to do a podcast, and he's selling consulting services. And one of the greatest values that I was explaining to him that he's going to get is he needs to find who his ideal customer is, these entrepreneur CEOs, and invite them to be the guests on his show. Then instead of trying to do a cold outreach to these people, he invites them on and gives them value, tries to promote them, promotes whatever they care about, gets them to know him, like him, and trust him. And then most of them are probably going to say, now tell me about what you do, right? And he probably will convert a very significant percentage of those. When you're small, and if you sell a high ticket product like consulting or coaching or something, That's a very effective strategy, is to invite your potential clients as the guests on your podcast. One of the next best benefits that I think CEOs get from having a show is they get invited on a whole bunch of other shows and to speak at a bunch of other events. So almost every CEO out there would love more influencers to promote their products. They would love to be on more podcasts. They would love to get invited to speak at more industry events. And they apply and they don't get accepted, or they just get accepted to a few of them, right? And they don't understand why. So the reality is, when you're a successful podcaster, you get 50 people requesting to be a guest on your show every month or more, right? And you can only, if you have 4 episodes, you can only invite a few of those people on your show. And so you're going to invite the people that have the most reach, that have the most audience, that can promote your show back, right? That's who's going to get picked. And the people that don't have a show aren't going to get picked. And so instead of being a big business that's just begging to get on these shows and is getting rejected, if you do a show, you become a peer with those podcasters, and then you can trade, and you can go be a guest on their show and have them be a guest on your show. And then they get to know you, like you, and trust you. And then they can become an affiliate of your show. So if you want to be on more shows, the secret is have a show, right? Yeah. If you want to get invited to speak at more events, the events are going to invite the speakers that can sell more tickets, get more people to their events. So if you want to get invited to speak at more trade shows, have a show, right? If you want more influencers to promote you, have a show, because you're going to invite the influencers to be the guests on your show. So it just opens so many doors and so many opportunities for reach far outside of your podcast.
If you're listening to this episode and thinking about how to build your business more strategically, one of the biggest opportunities most entrepreneurs miss is simply having the right tools and frameworks in place. That's exactly why we built a vault of resources for entrepreneurs who want to grow their business, minimize taxes, and build real long-term wealth. Inside, you'll find guides, tools, and strategies designed specifically for business owners who want to operate smarter and keep more of what they earn. You can access everything for free at vitalwealth.com/resources. Again, that's vitalwealth.com/resources, where you can explore the strategies we're using with entrepreneurs every day to help them grow, protect, and optimize their wealth. And Nathan, you talked about this earlier, but you talked about the importance of having your own website and sort of syndicating out. And one of the reasons you mentioned was, the algorithms can change, and so you like to have some control over that. One of the questions I have is there thoughts around, whether it's capturing email addresses or getting people to follow you on other channels? Because I've been to some podcasting conferences, and I've heard people say that are running like top 10 podcasts, like, hey, they changed the rules on us a little bit and we fell off, and that was frustrating. And so we wanted to get people on channels that we can control, that we didn't have to worry about that anymore. So how important is that in this process?
It's critically important. The way I explain that is I say, you don't want to build a skyscraper on someone else's land. You've got to build, if you're going to spend all that time and money building a skyscraper, you want to build it on land that you own. So what are those platforms that you can own as a podcaster, right? It's your email list, getting them on your email list. It's your website. It's a membership site. It's a community, right? There's these different things you can build where you can still use all those other channels, and you can push your content out to those other platforms. But then in every episode, you want to suck people from those other channels back into platforms that you own. And you do that through lead magnets. You give away an ebook or a course or something that you give away for free and offer that for free at the end of your episodes. And then a cheat sheet, a checklist, something like that. And when they come and download that, they join your list, right? And you're bringing them into your platform. And then you start sending out an email newsletter. You start pushing out your episodes to these people. You start giving value to them directly instead of having to go through a third party. Critically important. I've seen this over and over again. Businesses that build their whole business on someone else's platform that they don't own. And then that business changes the rules to be in the best interest of their shareholders and not in the best interest of their content creators, and their business dies. So
Yeah, no, that's so true. And like we had a really interesting example. We had a client that came to us that sold solely on Instagram. It was like a beauty product. I don't know what it was. And made a couple $1 million a year. And then all of a sudden her page, I'll call it, got shut down
Yep.
and there was nobody to call.
That's
There was
right.
nobody.
She had
She
no
was
contact
she was
information. She had
right.
nothing.
Right. She was interacting with, Instagram chatbots and FAQ pages trying to get her multi-million dollar business back online. And it's like,
Yep.
that's just a awfully important lesson to be like, the platform, I can't build my skyscraper on somebody else's land. I need to start taking those people that come in through the platform and transition them to something that I can control. So
Can I tell
it's
you a great story, another story about that?
please,
So
yeah.
when I was at Family Link, the story I was telling you, there was an intern that was there named John Rampton, and he was a
Hmm.
really smart guy, and he ended up leaving Family Link, and he created this little product called the Scrap Trap. The Scrap Trap was a little plastic device you put on your kitchen counter. You cut up your fruits and vegetables, scrape them in, and then you use it to throw away your scraps. So it's a real simple device. So he was selling this on Amazon, and he was making $97 million a year selling this little plastic device on Amazon.
Yeah.
So what do you think Amazon did when they realized that this young kid was making $97
Hmm.
million a year selling a little plastic device on their platform?
Right. They made the Amazon version of that
They did.
product.
And then they put it
Yeah.
on Amazon. And then what do you think they did after they had that product live?
Their product probably started ranking higher than his in search terms. I'm
It
guessing.
did,
But
and they completely removed his product from Amazon. So
yes,
he lost
there we go.
$97 million a year because he built his business completely, almost completely on platforms that he didn't own.
Yep. Yeah. 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 No, it's and I think we've got clients that help people bring products to market, and Amazon's definitely one of those, but it's never the only option. They're doing it through their own websites, and it's for the exact reason you're talking about. That's that's so important, and it might be a whole nother discussion about patents and some of that technology, that intellectual property that needs to be discussed too, because obviously there might have been some gaps there that
But for example, what John could have done is he could have built a little like done a kitchen app with recipes and cool
yeah.
kitchen advice and tips and tools. And on every box that he sold through Amazon, he had a little QR code where he got people to download his little free kitchen community app, right? And then he
Yeah.
turned all of those customers into people on his list on his platform. Then even when Amazon went away, he still had those relationships he could sell to directly.
Yeah. Yeah, this is so good. Um, Nathan, just thinking about PodUp, one of the things that I generally see with marketing and that type of thing that can be frustrating is I'm throwing lots of money at this thing, but it's not producing any results. I don't have anybody seeing my social media posts, that type of thing. Uh, just thinking about um, where are you at from with PodUp on like listeners, and is there some level of like if I engage with you and your team that I guaranteed some level of traffic that comes to my
Yeah,
podcast?
yeah, absolutely. So on PodUp, if you just use the software, you do it yourself, and there's no guarantee, right?
Mhm.
You just
Mhm.
license the software. You can pay between $20 or $150 a month, and you can do it yourself. But if you hire Pod Allies, that's our services
Mhm.
team. We do a bunch of marketing for you. We do syndication for you. We book great guests for you. We do paid advertising for you, and we even pay for the budget of the paid advertising from within what you pay us. You don't have to pay extra for the paid ads. We book you on shows. We do SEO for you, right? We do a whole bunch of different things to help grow your audience. We help get incoming links to you.
Mhm.
And we've gotten so good at this that we do offer guarantees. So our lowest level package guarantees 5,000 engagements
Mhm.
every month. So an engagement is like a video view, a blog view, an audio listen, something like that,
Yep.
where
Sure.
somebody's doing it. And we use true views. So like on video views, they have to watch at least 30 seconds on YouTube for it to count
Yep.
as a video view. Um, and so I we will guarantee as little as
Mhm.
5,000 guaranteed engagements a month to where our top packages do 50,000 or even more guaranteed
Yeah.
engagements a month.
Yeah, that's fantastic, and I love that you stand behind your product. We'll guarantee that the content you're putting out in the world is getting the views. So somebody's listening to this and they're like, "This is incredible. I would love to get started." How does somebody get started with their podcast? Where if if you're helping people get that process rolling, where should they go?
Yeah. So if you want to do it yourself, if you want to just license the software and kind of DIY it, then you can go to podup.com and you can go get a free 30-day trial of the software. And you can get we have a podcast launch course where we have 22
Mhm.
different video lessons we've done. And it can kind of walk you through step by step and teach you a lot of these things. Or if you know you need help, go
Mhm.
to podallies.com. That's PODALLIES.com. And you can schedule a free podcast strategy call. And
Mhm.
currently all those calls are with me. So if you book those calls, I'll be on the other side of that and we'll help you figure out your branding strategy, your marketing strategy, growth strategy, your monetization strategy. And all of that is free. Even if you never
Mhm.
use it, even if you go do it yourself,
Yeah.
we're happy to help you figure it out
Yeah.
and get going.
I love it. And one of the things that we talk a lot about on this podcast is finding a who in your life, not go figure out how to do it.
Yes.
Because we have unique ability, and we should lean into that, and we should find people that are excellent at things like producing and uh, pushing the podcast out into the world. So from my point of view, Pod Up sounds amazing, but Pod Allies is probably the place that most of our listeners should start. They're making healthy income, and like you said, to execute on your own, you're making less than minimum wage
That's right.
doing that. So you should absolutely leverage that service because uh, I'm certain you can go generate more revenue, going out, finding a new client, leaning into a current relationship, doing a speaking engagement, something along those lines. That's great. Nathan, we've talked a lot about podcast, how to get started, the value of the podcast, how easy it's now gotten with tools like PodUp and Pod Allies. Anything else we should be talking about that we haven't touched on podcast in this universe?
I think I would touch on a kind of a mindset. Um,
Mhm.
Sometimes people come into this and they think a podcast is a get rich quick scheme, and they get 3 episodes in and they're frustrated that they're not selling, $5,000 sponsorships.
Mhm.
And it doesn't work that way. If you need to sell a huge sponsorship by your third episode, don't podcast because
Yeah.
you won't be there.
Yeah.
In
This is
Yeah.
this Yep, go ahead,
I was going to
please.
say, what thoughts do you have on that?
Yeah, I was gonna say, I think you just highlighted a problem in America, okay? And, I think we like a drive-through breakthrough, you know? We like five-minute abs, right? We don't like showing up every day and putting in the work for a long period of time to get unreasonable results.
Yeah.
And I think that's the key, and I think that's what most successful entrepreneurs have done. We've run across a few that have hit some home runs, and I will admit to this too. I hit some home runs early on in my career. Then I effectively went broke, and then uh, got it all back again. But it was like, oh, that like easy win was not sustainable. There actually wasn't a lot of wisdom that was developed with that. There was a lot of luck that came along with it, and so again, it's like anything that truly matters. I think about the most valuable things in life. Let's use my faith as an example. Showing up, spending time with spiritual disciplines on a regular basis is where it happens. My marriage, the same thing. I have to invest. I have to be intentional about my relationship with my wife, parenting, my health, my business. Like it just takes showing up on a regular basis to see success. And I think about Russell's challenge to you on produce every day for a year. Put something out into the world every single day, and most people won't do it. They'll they'll get to their 8th episode and be like, screw it, this is hard.
Yeah.
I'm not seeing the results that I want to see, you know? And so when I think about what you just said, I think that's where people can distinguish themselves. Is it doesn't take a heroic effort. It just takes showing up and doing the disciplines on a regular basis, even when you don't feel like it. You know, our emotions will tell us, um, not today, you know, I don't feel like it. But we have to lean into the work and go, nope, we're going to show up today, even though I don't feel like it, and put it in, and eventually the results will come. There's an old analogy about, um, you know, hitting the stone, right? And it's not the first blow that breaks it. It's the thousand that all combined, you know, break the stone apart. And you can't skip any single one of those. And so the same thing happens here. It's like you got to just keep putting in the work day after day, and then eventually you'll be in a place where people will be like, "Wow, look at that overnight success." And one of my favorite phrases that a mentor of mine said was, "Yeah, I'm 30 years into an overnight success." You know, and it's like, you know, there's a lot of truth to that. All of a sudden, it just kind of pops off, and people are like, "Look at how lucky that person is." And it's like, no, they've been putting in the work for a long period of time, and now we're just starting to see the fruit of that. So,
Yeah,
thank you for that comment. I think that
for sure.
is critical.
And by the way,
Good.
that promise from Russell worked for me, right?
Mhm.
I had millions and millions of dollars of net worth by the end of that 12
Yeah.
months, a new net worth that was directly attributable to that show. So when you
Yeah.
find your mentor and they give you that advice and they know what they're talking about, go do it.
Yeah. Yeah. I think this is great. So we'll have links to the show notes to podallies.com and podup.com. Just fantastic resources. And I think I'll be signing up for the strategy call here now that I'm hearing about this amazing opportunity again that I need to lean into. So, I, I think about these things, and the risks of not taking action. You know, we're remaining on the outside. We're sort of being passed by. We're the I'll say our network. You know, you were talking about these speaking engagements and other podcasts and being a thought leader in your arena. Like that doesn't happen on accident. And a podcast is, I would say, similar, if not better than like a book. You know, because I can create and sort of refine my thinking week after week, month after month, and some people publish every day, right? I can do that on a regular basis, and I think it puts me in new territory.
You
Uh,
you find your
yeah,
voice. Yeah, like you're asking about benefits to CEOs doing it. One of the big benefits is you find your voice. Like I remember my first episodes that I recorded. I I scripted things and it was horrible. It was awful, but I wasn't confident in
yeah,
myself and my messaging. And I was in a I was at a congregation, a new congregation um, of our church, and somebody that knew me was up on the stand, and the speaker didn't take the whole time, and
mhm,
he called on me from the audience to come up, and after having done podcasts for years now,
mhm,
I walked up and I delivered a sermon with no prep time, and I
yeah,
felt incredibly comfortable, and I felt very good about the message that I delivered,
mhm,
and being able to find that inside of me, to find my voice
mhm.
and my confidence and my ability to communicate, that's been one of the greatest gifts that I've got from having a podcast.
Yeah, yeah, that's fantastic, and I absolutely believe that's true. We've just been able to refine our voice, and public speaking has now become a much easier thing. If I'm on a platform presenting, uh, it's easy because I've been doing it week in and week out for a long period of time now. You know, I'm also thinking about the stakes of missed opportunities, you know, partnerships, deal flow, and then allowing less experienced voices dominate the conversation in our industry. That's just not right. I think that's something that we should, somebody that's excellent at the work they're doing, they should be at the top of the food chain. So, you know, their expertise stays trapped inside their business
Yeah.
instead of multiplying its impact. And then I think about the flip side of that. Taking action, the entrepreneur can build authority in their niche, expand influence and reach,
Yeah.
create new financial opportunities and channels, and then create those high quality relationships and opportunities. And we talk regularly about don't be beige. Like, plant your flag and stand for something, and
Yeah.
you will attract people like that. And so you'll get to work with the people that are going, yes, I want to connect with that person because they think just like I do. So
Yeah.
I think it becomes a strategic business asset if we take action on these things.
So,
So
so I think we haven't even talked about the best one yet. I think the greatest
okay,
benefit of having a podcast, we've touched on it a little bit, but um, what it lacks in not being a get rich quick scheme,
mhm,
it has as an asset when you have a podcast and you build an audience over time that gets to know you, like you, and trust you. It makes up for that in being a long-term retirement strategy, or it can be if you do that right. And as you build a following and you have these thousands of people that know you and like you and trust you and come to you for advice on certain topics, those people that get to that spot, they just go find different products and services that they love,
mhm,
and then they just
yeah,
recommend them into that audience. And they've got this long-term ability to generate revenue from that
yeah.
trusted following.
Yeah. Yeah, that's great. I think of Seth Godin. I was reading Seth Godin's blog before I understood what a blog was in the early 2000s. And Seth talks about permission marketing and having that permission asset.
Hmm.
And what's happened with what happens with a podcast is they give you permission every single episode to speak into their lives, right? And when you recommend a product or highlight a new opportunity, they're going to go, man, I trust what Nathan's saying, and I'm going to go get some of that. So I think you're absolutely right. And then once you've built that, you've got that trust. That is so hard to do in today's day and age because everybody's, you know, wants to be entertained in a short period of time. And so we've built this. We've got something that we can leverage over a long period of time. And I think it's wonderful. Good. Anything else we should be touching on before we wrap up? This has been great.
Um, the last concept that I would talk about would be
Hmm.
what I call passion marketing. And
Hmm.
in today's world, our audience has way too many things to choose from. With every extra hour they have hundreds of thousands of videos they could watch on streaming, plus all the YouTube and social videos they could watch. With every extra dollar they have, there's millions of products that they could buy. And I remember when I started my first business, people would create a good product or service, and then they would go advertise and tell the world why it's so awesome. And that doesn't work very well anymore. Um, Being good is not good enough anymore. And so
Hmm.
one of the most effective strategies that really helps you have a successful show is find what I call the level 10 passion of your target audience. Find what really drives their lives and then build everything around that. Don't don't build it around your level 10 passion. Build it around the level 10 passion of your target audience. And
Yeah.
you're probably going to be wildly successful. You're going to look like a genius, and you're just focusing on what really matters to them. So
Yeah.
so many people miss that.
Yeah, that's brilliant. I've heard a great conversationalist. People will consider somebody a great conversationalist when all they do is ask questions, and people get to talk about themselves. And I think you're highlighting a very important point. When we speak to what's important to people, they love what we have to say, and so I think we have an opportunity out there as marketers and entrepreneurs to really think about that. What is that level 10 interest of my listener, my ideal client, my ideal avatar, and let's just like nail that day in and day out, and we'll have a list of raving fans that can't wait to uh, listen to our next opportunity and see what we have going on out there in the world. So
Perfect.
um, great, Nathan. This has been incredible. Again, everybody should go check out podup.com and podallies.com, and we'll have links to that in the show notes. But this has been wonderful, so insightful, and I appreciate all your time and efforts.
And if you've loved this show and it's provided value to you, the way that you can say thank you to this amazing host who's put this together for you is go to Apple Podcasts or go to Spotify, go to YouTube, wherever you consume it, Go find Vital Strategies and subscribe, comment, like it. That's your way to say thank you. That's your way to give back a little bit. And then it helps a lot more people to find this great content that he's creating.
Wonderful. Nathan, I so appreciate that. You have a great day.
Thanks, Patrick.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Vital Wealth Strategies podcast. I hope you found real value in this conversation with Nathan and picked up a few ideas you can apply in your business right away. If you did enjoy the episode, I'd encourage you to share it with another entrepreneur who could benefit from this information. And if you haven't already, leave a quick review. It helps us reach more business owners who are looking for better strategies to grow, build, and operate at a higher level. Before you go, make sure to visit vitalwealth.com/resources. We've created a vault of tools, guides, and strategies designed specifically for the entrepreneurs who want to grow their businesses, minimize taxes, and build long-term wealth. Again, that's vitalwealth.com/resources. So you can dive into those resources and start putting them to work in your business. And remember, you're a vital entrepreneur. You're vital because you're the backbone of our economy, creating opportunities, driving growth, and making an impact. You're vital to your family, creating abundance in every aspect of life. And you're vital to me because you're committed to growing your wealth, leading with purpose, and creating something truly great. Thank you for being a part of this incredible community of vital entrepreneurs. I appreciate you, and I look forward to having you back here next week on the Vital Wealth Strategies podcast, where we help entrepreneurs minimize their taxes, master wealth, and optimize their lives.